welcome to Dave's Delights. I'm Dave, and what a delight it's going to be today because we're making pizza. So, when I make pizza, I make it from scratch because why not? Look at my kitchen. Look what I've got. So we're going to start with dough. And the dough, to me, is the most important part of the pizza. Other than that abomination we call deep dish pizza, all other pizzas are the crust is really the most important part. I mean, because you can have whatever topping you want, but what makes it pizza is the crust. I live in New Jersey, so there's good pizza everywhere, but why not make it at home? That way I know everything that's in it. So what we're going to start with is a cup of warm water and a packet of dry yeast. Now, I also put in 1 teaspoon of sugar, and then I stirred that all up, and I gave it 10 minutes to set up and start foaming. And as you can see, that yeast is definitely awake now. Now you want warm water and not hot water. And then we have 2.5 cups of bread flour. Now there's also, you can use all-purpose flour, it just won't come out quite as tasty, but it will work. Or, if you go to your store, a lot of them will actually have something that's called pizza flour, which again, same thing, 2.5 cups. And this is sifted bread flour. And this is going to go into my wonderful mixer with a dough hook. You can do this by hand, but I didn't spend this kind of money on a beautiful machine like this to not use it at every opportunity. I've got my my flour is in. Sometimes you have a little memory lapse there. And then in goes a teaspoon of salt. And this is an optional thing, but I like putting in a little bit of seasoning, so I've added a teaspoon of dried oregano. You can skip this step, or you can put whatever herbs you want in if you like having an herb bread, an herb crust. For me, I find it enjoyable. And then we have the water, yeast, and sugar mixture that goes in as well. And finally, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. 1, 2. Now we're about to get loud. We're going to mix this. I put it at the lowest setting, which is stir. And I'll let this mix together. And that's going to take a couple of minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to let this come together, and then when I get back, when it gets done, we let it rest for 30 minutes to get a rise out of it. I will come back once we have it risen and we're ready to make it into a pizza. Hello and welcome back. So we've had enough time to let this pizza dough rest. Now that recipe is enough to make 2 of these size balls. I split them, and you can put them in the refrigerator and use them later, or they freeze really well too. So you could double this batch up, or whatever size you want, and you can have these in the freezer ready to be thawed for a pizza night at almost no notice. So, and now I'm going to take this ball, and we got to start working it out because we're trying to make this into pizza size. Now what I've noticed is I'm no pizziola. I can't give it the flip and fly. So I'm just going to keep on working it out, and I'm actually going to use this to try to get it a little bit wider before I start tossing. Tossing is still relative. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to do because I don't want it on the ceiling or on my floor. But we are trying to get it nice and thin and pretty round. So now I might be able to, you just put it on your knuckles and you're letting the air do it. I've never been super successful at it. But once I get this spread out a bit, and you can use the whole batch and make a gigantic pizza, or you can cut it into smaller portions and have little personal pies. But I want it to be pretty thin. Yeah, look at that. Thin it up real nice. My little silicone mat here shows me a 12-inch circle. Gives me a good starting point. All right. So now once I have this nice and thin the way I want it, and you can see that's now pretty thin. Look at that. So now I could take this and I'm going to put it on a pizza pan. Now if you have a pizza stone in your oven, and if you have a pizza stone in your oven, you can just throw some cornmeal there and lay it down on top of that. But I'm going to take this pizza pan, and notice it's got holes in it. These will make the crust crispier. But you can do it either which way. I've done them both with the ones with the holes and ones without. Now ideally, I think that if I did that whole batch, I'd be able to get a pizza this size. But this is more than just the two of us eat in one evening, so I try to make them a little bit smaller. So I'll take my pizza pan, lay my dough out on my pan, and I'm going to start spreading it to the corners. So you can see that has filled in those creases, and this is a 16-inch pan. So now I'm going to just kind of build up the rim just a little bit, maybe with some of that excess. And do a little punchy, punchy, punch. And this guy is ready for the oven. So what we need to do next is you can sauce these any way you like. Now, I make sauce from scratch, and I'm going to do a recipe for it later in the season when it's tomato harvest time. I'm going to do a whole episode about canning and tomato sauces and things like that. But the pizza sauce, you can certainly get in a store if you wanted to, or your local, sometimes your local pizza places will jar it and sell it that way. But it's going to be a little bit thicker, and you want it to be flavored. So it's like a tomato sauce where you either cooked it for a while and reduced it so that it's thicker than your typical runny marinara sauce. But then you're going to flavor it basically the same way. Garlic and butter, maybe some olive oil, some herbs, oregano, things like that, a little basil. And it should be thin, but not super thin, because you want it to be able to spread. And if you want to have it being chunky, you could just take the plum tomatoes and smash them yourself and make it that way. This has been pureed, but if you want to have it a little bit more rustic, you could certainly do that. Or you could do a white pizza, where I take olive oil and garlic and then put cheese on top of it, or like an Alfredo sauce and put it on top of it, or any topping you want. But I'm going to take this marinara style pizza sauce, and I'm going to spread it around. Now you don't want to have too much. You don't want your pizza to be super wet. There we go. So a little bit more, because I like it a little bit saucy. And now we're ready for cheese. Now, we may have mentioned in the past that I don't really eat cheese. Now, there are some things that are worth getting sick over, and good real pizza is one of them. So I can have a slice or two, and I'll get a little bit sick later, but it could be worse. But my wife loves pizza, and she likes it cheesy. So I got a bunch of mozzarella, shredded mozzarella, and you could put whatever other types of cheese you like in there. The sky is the limit with pizza. And I'm going to spread that around and make sure I'm really getting a nice coating on here. There we go. And then there's a cheese pizza right there. But we can do better than that. Let's add some fresh basil. I just made some strips of basil. Make that kind of rain from heaven. And then put some freshly sliced tomatoes down. These are actually San Marzanos, because that's what I've got that's coming off the vines at the moment. And you don't have to have any pattern to this. You can kind of just toss it however you like. All right. And then finally, pepperoni. Now you can get the bagged thin stuff if that's what you like, but I like taking a pepperoni and slicing it real thin myself, because of the way the casing is, they'll cup up. And people talk about these being the better pepperoni this way. But it's going to make it a little bit greasier. Now if you're a vegetarian, just 86 the pepperoni. Other than that, it's all about whatever toppings you like on your pizza. This is your pizza, so make it any way you like. And if your guests don't like this, you can do halvesies, half and half, or you can make a double batch of this and then everybody gets their own personal pizza, making a bunch of smaller ones. You could put them in a pan like this and cook small personal ones. That will work just as well too. Okay, so that's about as busy as I want it to get. We now have pretty good looking, ready to get in the oven pizza. So I'm going to put it in a 500-degree oven. That's as hot as my oven gets. And we're going to go for about 20 minutes at this temperature. But I am going to keep an eye on it because depending on how that oven's running today, it could go faster or it could go slower. Now, if you get a dedicated pizza oven, what you'll find is some of them go up into the 700s, 800s, 900 degrees. And if you've got that, you can get a pizza done and really done in like 60 to 90 seconds. In which case, it's all about turning the pizza, and you still might have to do that in here, but there's a lot more time to do it versus you better be watching it the whole time on one of those pizza ovens. Down the road, I plan on getting one, but until then, this oven does great. So, we're gonna let this cook, and I will come back as soon as it is done and ready. I'll see you guys then. Hello and welcome back. Now our pizza is just about ready in the oven here. I'm going to pull it out and give you a good look at what it looks like. My bare hands are in the wash today, so we need to use something a little bit different. Oh yeah, look at that. Almost too far. Perfect. So if you look, that's a pretty nice looking pizza right there. Problem is, it is laser hot. So, unless you want to have the cheese just everywhere, you want to let this set, cool just for a couple of seconds until you can see that it's starting to congeal up again, and then you can slice it out. So before we do that, I guess we could probably do a jump cut, just like that. Magically, the pizza is now ready to cut. So, I don't like doing this in my pans, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this onto a cutting board. And again, yeah, it's cooled down a little bit, but I still don't want to use my just empty hands to get this pizza. And if you have a peel, that makes it even easier, but I don't have a peel at the moment. So that way I can preserve my nice, actually turns out 14-inch pan, rather than getting it all scratched up with a pizza cutter. So now, pizza's there, pizza cutter in hand, and we're just doing geometry. Once across, once across the other way, and look at that. Thin crust, well done on the bottom. Now you don't have to make it this crispy. This is the way I like pizza. If you want to have it a little bit less cooked, you can just leave it in for less long. Just keep an eye on it. Pull it out when you're ready for it. So as you can see, she's ready for the plate, minus that little corner there. Now, when you're making pizza at home, you don't have a box. So how are you going to store it? Well, I found on the internet what I consider a pretty clever way to do this. This is a silicone container that you can open up, and you can then put one slice at a time. Slice goes in, divider goes on top. Slice goes in, and divider. And, continue. So that way you've got a good way, and then it lids up on the top there. It's a good way to store the pizza in the fridge, assuming you don't eat it all. Now, quite frankly, generally there aren't a lot of leftovers for us with these. Anyhow, I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you try this at home. Please let me know in the comments. Did you like it? Have you tried it? Send me pictures. What would you like me to cook for you? I look forward to hearing from you. Hit like and subscribe so you can see more of my stuff, and come back and see me again. Have a wonderful day.